this is going to be the easiest interview in the world because all I've got to do is ask one question of this man and wait for 25 minutes. So it'll be, it's going to be easy.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, we got 25 minutes. So Keith Krach is a dear friend, a fraternity brother, and a great philanthropist and a great humanitarian. But what I want to, just a real quick rundown. Youngest VP at General Motors, left there, went out to the West Coast, entrepreneur in residence at Benchmark, with a bunch of crayons on a tablecloth created with a bunch of other interesting people while he was there. Ariba reinvented the procurement business today, about $1 trillion worth of commerce going through that company, which is extraordinary. Took 8 years off to climb big mountains and be a soccer dad, as I understand it. Somewhere along the way, bought an outrageous home in San Francisco, if anybody's ever been to that gorgeous place up on the top of the hill. And then somewhere along the way, decided to come back to do that CEO thing again at DocuSign. And so what we're going to be talking about today is this business that we all sort of generally understand because we've used it, right? If you're one of the, 50 million users and 100,000 companies in 188 countries, then you might have some sense of this business. But we're going to learn about the business. We're going to learn about the man as a leader and how somebody has had such extraordinary success and what we can take away from it. So I saw you watching your friend and mentor today, John Chambers, right? Now, I was told, and I hope I don't put you on too much of the spot, I've kind of seen him do this before. I was told he does a good Chambers imitation. So I'd like you to actually answer the next question in your best Chambers imitation. So the question is, what did you learn from Chambers in the mentorship that he gave you?
Okay, that's a fair question. Let me just first tell a story how I first met him. Then I'm going to tell you the most important thing I learned from him. So this is 16 years ago. I'm out running Ariba. I get a phone call. Keith, this is John Chambers. Now, we just got invited to talk to the board of directors of Telefonica. Now, this is an amazing company, and it's a great honor. Now, I'll be flying over in my Falcon jet, and if you would like a ride over with me, I will give it to you. However, you will not be able to come back with me because, you see, I have some other important meetings. So anyway, just be there. And by the way, don't think that I'm rude because when I go on a plane, I work and then I sleep. Okay? All right, John, that sounds great. Thank you. Okay, so I go on the plane, and I'm looking at this Falcon jet, and he goes, Keith, have you ever been on a plane like this before? And I go, John, I haven't. I'm just an Ohio farm boy. He goes, let me tell you about the first time I was on a private jet like this. The first time I came on, I said, oh my God, John, I just can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Now, the second time I came on a plane like this, I said, John, this is mighty nice, mighty nice. Now, the third time I came on a plane like this, I said, John, I'm never flying commercial again. That's how I first met him.
So there's the Chambers imitation.
Okay. Okay, so let me tell you about the number one thing I learned from him. So,
by the way, see how I told you? Just one question. We're good. We're good.
And after that,
what did that man teach you?
Well, here's what he taught me. He taught me about paying it forward and giving it back. And, you know, we would have breakfast every month for 4 years. And I'll never forget walking into his office after, we've been doing this for about a year. Keith, would you like breakfast? Diet Coke, chocolate Coke? That sounds good, John. And he goes, Keith, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I go, as a matter of fact, John, I was actually very much thinking that. He goes, well, let me tell you why. Because you see, when I came out from Boston, when I came out from Wang, I didn't know shit from Shinola. And you know, I had somebody do this for me. And God bless his soul, Lou Platt. He was the former CEO of HP. And by the way, I asked him that same question, and he told me somebody did that for him. So Keith, I tell you, you do this for somebody else, and that, Keith, is the magic of Silicon Valley. That's the most important thing I learned from him.
And that is actually rather poignant and touching to me personally. When I've sat in your office, and you have regaled me with the tales of the founding of Ariba and what you've learned in terms of the business model, how you applied it to DocuSign just for my own business as well. So I know you definitely practice what you preach. To that end, I've heard this before, and it's been very valuable in the startup of my new business. But can you talk a little bit about what did you perfect and learn when you were at DocuSign? When you were at Ariba, that you've carried into the success of DocuSign? And this is a place for you guys to take your pen and paper out, because I've listened to this before and I never get enough of it. So.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what was mentioned at lunch. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So, what I learned at Ariba was, first of all, the power of creating a network. Now $1 trillion of commerce goes through the Ariba network, and it's, the number of members squared, right, is that network effect. The other thing that I learned is that if you're gonna pick a market and you're gonna pick a competitor, pick paper, because it doesn't punch back. The other thing I learned is the importance of being able to quantify ROI. And the other thing I learned is that if you start and you're competing with paper, you can create a category. And if you name the category, you're the only one there. And if you're the only one there, you're the global standard. And at Ariba, we created B2B e-commerce. At DocuSign, digital transaction management. So learned a tremendous amount. Now, what's changed in terms of the internet is and what's turbocharged our business, of course, is mobile, right? It's just absolutely turbocharged our business. We did about as many transactions last year as we've done the life to date over the last 12 years of the company. The other thing that's turbocharged our business is the importance of that end user experience, particularly for the consumer. And the third thing is about reducing risk in terms of security and compliance. So, the 4 companies that I helped build, it all use the same playbook: the vision, the mission, the values, team rules, long-term goal strategy, all boiled down to execution.
The quantification of the ROI, I've seen some of your sales decks.
Yeah.
In all full disclosure, I'm on his sales advisory board, which is a great party if any of you can get on it. And it's really impressive. It's just undeniable as you turn the pages in front of a client why you have no choice but to purchase. Maybe you can walk through a little bit of the ROI calculation for DocuSign.
Sure. I'll give you an example. And this was the last 2 days of January. Went over to Germany, and the CEO of Deutsche Telekom said, we're bringing together our 1,000 leaders. We do it once a year. And the sole topic is digital transformation, digitalization. You're the only outside speaker we've ever brought in. We want a case study. We want to use you guys as a case study and your customers. And the way he introduced me is he said, I just got back from a T-Mobile board meeting. He's the chairman of T-Mobile. Deutsche Telekom owns 60% of them. And he goes, we paid $25 million for DocuSign to roll out to our 3,000 retail stores. Last year, we saved 600 million pieces of paper. We put $200 million to our bottom line, and we reduced our average sign-up time from 58 minutes to less than 10. We couldn't have launched the next Apple phone without it. And so it's quantified. And we go into the big insurance companies. One particular insurance company, it's over the next 3 years, we expect to put $2 billion your bottom line. It's not just the expense side, but it's also the revenue side as well, because of the speed. Time kills all deals.
And do people still push back on price?
People always push back on price.
Have you thought about a way to get some of that savings?
Well, we always offer. It's like, can we take a percentage of the value that you derive, the impact on the bottom line? Nobody's taken us up on that. We did the same thing at Ariba. But if we do, that's fantastic. But, we measure our success by our customer success.
I want to get into why this is such a big potential still as a company. Before I do, I was talking to Tim earlier, Mr. Draper, What was the case study that you were suggesting? It was a governmental, which country?
So the Prime Minister of Estonia came to Draper University to speak, and he said that just by using digital signatures, we save 2% of our GDP.
Did you guys hear that?
That's a great ROI.
Estonia went to
The follow-on question for that was, Keith,
Yeah, so the follow-on question
what do
is,
you think the odds are of the U.S. government?
so is the U.S. going to use digital signature and DocuSign? Are we going to get to that?
Well, there's no doubt about it. And it was interesting. We were at a summit, and President Clinton, as he came walking off the stage, he's like a DocuSign fanatic. And he goes, those guys from DocuSign, we need to use DocuSign when we vote. People have to, travel 100. So it is inevitable. And it's the biggest market I've ever seen because every company, every government institution is a potential customer, every department, and every person is a potential end user. That's why our numbers are just moving so fast.
Stay there for us in terms of
Yeah.
if somebody is saying, are you going to invest in this company today? What's the growth potential? I mean, there's a lot of people these days saying you guys are already well valued, et cetera, but I know you feel differently.
Well, I'm just a businessman. I focus on the customer, and I let the valuation fend for themselves. That's what you always got to say when you're on TV.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But the question is, why is this still a small business in a big market?
Well, here's what's going on, right? And by the way, we've doubled those numbers that you mentioned, over 200,000 companies now, 100 million unique. So it's going fast.
Wow.
And it is also a winner take all. And one of the things out of our playbook is strategically to use our equity financing strategy integrated with our corporate development strategy. So you think about who's invested in DocuSign: Microsoft, Intel, Google, SAP, Salesforce, Comcast, National Association of Realtors, Samsung, NTT, Mitsui, Country of Singapore, Telstra, BBVA, Deutsche Telekom, and Federal Express. And so
$510 million worth. You're an extraordinary salesman.
Yeah. And Draper's an investor too.
There you go. Hey, I don't know if it was just recently, because obviously my research is a little out of date, but Fast Company named y'all one of the most innovative companies. For people running businesses or evaluating businesses, what are the practices that you use to keep and sustain innovation?
Yep.
Like get it real.
Yep.
What is it that really you do as a CEO
Yep.
to maintain that?
Yep. And General Stanley McChrystal used these words, and it's core to our leadership imperatives. Challenge the status quo. And we talk about change. Change is the most powerful word in any language. Without change, you don't develop, prosper, grow. We're in the transformation business. We're the first step in the digital transformation, because before you can get the analytics, big data, and artificial intelligence, you got to get the paper out, right? And the other interesting thing, so the CEO of Deutsche Telekom said this after, he goes, look, this is not like putting in ERP or CRM software. You can do it within weeks, months, the C-suite days. And he goes, before you can steer the Mercedes, you have to get it moving. We need quick wins. And so enabling the C-suite, top on down. In terms of innovation, as a CEO, the key is to get innovation in every single functional area of the company. So the product, it's obvious, and we've got so much stuff coming along the way. But even, for example, in the legal and security area, we've helped facilitate the XDTM standard. Think of what the PCI standard is in payments. That's what the XDT, so it's quantifiable, measurable in things like privacy, security, compliance, universal interoperability. So that's innovation. You think of our go-to-market strategy. It's like, most of these, we've got about 300 folks in our commercial sales area. That's $1 billion on down. It's like most of these guys are organized by geography. It's why. We say by SIC code instead of zip code. So we've got somebody who specializes in sports teams, somebody who specializes in, a particular area of nonprofit. So it's to keep that going. And
there was a late night with tequila that I remember, as opposed to others I don't remember. But this particular, this particular one, I was talking to your head of sales, Chris, and he said he has never seen you have a bad day. And I thought that was interesting. A head of sales, by the way, right, saying this. So I'm curious about your take on culture. And human capital management's something near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Once again, unique and specific practices. What do you do that makes DocuSign a unique place in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Or globally, for that matter?
I think it's about dreaming big. I think it's setting big, audacious goals. And we just had a couple thousand of us get together for our annual kickoff, sales kickoff, engineering kickoff. And the theme was imagine. And we set these big, audacious goals in terms of number of third-party developers, consumers, business, all that kind of stuff. And I said, now, this looks impossible, right? And I know, and you can see the guys squirming in their seat. I can see the engineers, the sales guys. I go, all right, by the way, just take a second out of your day and look back and look at what we accomplished this last year. And think about, can you believe we did this, this, and this? Now, look at that. Now extrapolate it. And that gives you comfort in terms of being able to accomplish that. And I talked about dreaming big, and I said, I got that from my father. He always say, your dreams will determine your thoughts will determine your words will determine your habits, and your habits will determine your character and your destiny. And I think the same thing is true for a company.
You said that all organizations will be fully digital by the end of the decade. No paper. And
successful.
What other things, what other markets, what other opportunities as you look out there do you see being created along that transformation? What other things are going to happen that we haven't even started thinking about?
Well, if you think about all these companies being DocuSign enabled, you think about all of them being paperless, and this is clearly the direction we're heading in terms of the DocuSign Global Trust Network, is fast, frictionless, secure transactions and universally translated. Because there's different regs and laws everywhere. And on top of that, I really believe your imagination is your only limitation. And especially these days in terms of privacy and security, it makes it even that much more important.
You took 8 years off before DocuSign, raised that one sitting in the front row.
Carter, raise your hand. This is my 23-year-old son. He's a very famous actor.
The aspiring actor, if anybody can give him a shot, he's right there. Climbed Kilimanjaro, I believe, is that correct? What'd you learn during that period of time that made you a better CEO this time around?
It is just endless, so much. First of all, it is, at the end of the day, it is about your faith, your family, and your friends. And, you got to be running 1,000,000 miles an hour when you're a CEO, and achieving escape velocity allowed me to kind of take a breath and appreciate what it's all about long term.
I've got one last question, but before I do, is
sure.
there a question I should have asked you that I didn't, that you want to answer?
No.
Okay. So I read this quote, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I saw it in a Fortune article that was quoting from you. It could have been misquoted.
Probably was.
But anyway, here we go. It's not what you know. It's what you think of in the moment that matters.
Okay. So here's where this came from. So my daughter, who's 29, when she was 12 years old, I took her back to a Harvard Business School reunion. And you go through the classes and all that, and you have the case studies, and she's got her yellow highlighter and doing all this stuff. And at the end of the class, people are raising, just like you're in class. And at the end, she goes, "Who do I hand this into?" Oh. And I go, "Well, here's the great thing, Monica, about Harvard Business School. There's no homework. Well, how do you figure how well you do? It's based upon class participation. It's what you say. She goes, what'd you learn anyway there? I go, that's a good question. It's not what you know. It's what you think of in time that matters. That's what I learned. But by the way, and you look at the processing speed of a guy like John Chambers, speed is important in terms of how you think, in terms of how you execute, and probably one of the most intellectual exercises in the world is taking something complex and make it simple so you can execute it at warp speed. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
25 seconds left to our time together. Is there a question from the audience? Well, without a question from the audience, I think there is one? Yes, sir.
You mentioned voting. How would that work, and is it possible that we could implement a digital voting?
Digital voting. Is it possible that digital voting could work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you would authenticate yourself. It'd be classically how DocuSign would deliver the encrypted payload, which would basically be the voting form. Boom, 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 check it, send it to the government, secure, bing, bang, boom, done. And there's a total audit trail and total compliance all along the way. So it'd be encrypted, private, audit trail, all that.
There's a lot of investors here. What advice do you have for investors in dealing with entrepreneurs? That'll be my last question.
Yeah. First of all, take the long-term view. Second of all, you can never have enough cash, right? Third of all, the job of the investors or the board is to make the CEO successful. What's not the job is to get involved in operating details. And you know what? Give the CEOs a chance to fail. You know, it's like, I remember saying to the board, hey, we're going to create a new category from scratch. You can't do that. Okay. You do it. You can't create a standard. Okay. I'll do that. So I think take that long-term view, I think. And the other thing that's important too, DocuSign, it's not brain surgery. We're not going to kill anybody. So we take the business seriously. You know, one word, it's trust. Trust is sacrosanct. We provide a trusted service, but we don't take ourselves seriously. So have a sense of humor and have some fun along the way. And also mock yourself out. It's easy in my case.
In a world where, and I know this because we're about to go downstairs and I'm about to give a presentation on my first.
And what room is that? Because I'm going down.
Wilshire 4. So
Wilshire
he's going to go interview
4.
me downstairs at my first
Keith will be interviewing Keith. We'll switch to
We're going to switch it downstairs for the first look. But it's interesting, in a world where the millennial workforce, I don't know if you all know this, but 75% of our workforce will soon be millennial. And within 50% of all millennials, within 3 months, start looking for a new job. All right? So with that organization in mind, this is a man who, when you walk around his offices, has a group of young, excited, potent, and aspirational individuals that are just loving working there. This is a company that's going to be around a long time with an incredibly youthful CEO. Cheers.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.